Weekly New Orleans Saints updates with Nick Underhill on OTB are brought to you by former LSU Tiger and attorney Chris Perrette.
All right, last night, Saints winners, 3-2 going into the bye. Drew Brees with a touchdown pass, over 20 yards. Man looked retro last night as the Saints get the win in the second half. We talk about it every week with Nick Underhill from NewOrleans.Football. It is a subscription site. If you have not paid up and gotten your news and information from the New Orleans Saints, for the New Orleans Saints from NewOrleans.Football, I don't know what you're doing. Check out the podcast as well, online at NewOrleans.Football, brought to you by former LSU Tiger and current attorney Chris Perrette. Nick, good morning. How are you?
Hey, man, that was something. Getting retro Brees, is that like 16-bit Super Nintendo Drew Brees?
Yes.
What is retro Brees?
Long time ago. Tecmo Bowl Drew Brees.
I mean, hey, that ball went 40 yards in the air, didn't it?
Yeah, he threw that thing, man. He threw it.
It was a legit throw, no doubt.
So what did you make? It was kind of like a tale of two halves, right? I mean, what did you make of last night's game, of the way that they started to the way that they finished?
Man, that was a tedious game, I think, start to finish. And in that first half, I think it was probably as bad as a half I've seen them play in a really long time. It kind of felt like the Rob Ryan era Saints a little bit. The thing with the offense is I don't really think there's any flow to anything. And coming out of that Detroit game, I think that, the hope was that it was going to click in right away, and that was going to be how they were good to go. And it wasn't quite that. They came out, they struggled a little bit. The second half, obviously, they really turned it around. Brees ended up over 300 yards. You saw some things open up a little bit, but, this is a team that they won the game ugly, but it feels like they have to win games ugly right now. And maybe that Detroit game's a bit of the exception, but, I mean, look, it's a good thing they got the win. They're going into bye 3-2. They can figure it out. But, I mean, I don't think that this is a game where you feel good about everything that happened. If you're looking at it critically, this is a team with the Super Bowl standard, and if you're going to hold them to a Super Bowl standard, this is well short of it. But the good thing is they got lucky. The field goal didn't go through, and they got a chance to win it, and they did execute when they needed to. Mike Thomas comes back, maybe that helps a little bit more on offense, and you're a little bit more diversified. But those coverage busts, I mean, that stuff just can't keep going. You can't be a team that's allowing 30 points per game and, expect to win a Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen. And frankly, I think the Chargers messed up late in that game when they got the ball back. I with the way they're defending the deep ball and drawing flags down the field, I don't know why you aren't taking shots down the field. But first time they run the ball, then it's a short pass. Just chuck it and hope for the best. And, I hate to say it, but right now it feels like that's a great strategy for beating the Saints until they can figure out how to stop doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie, Nick. Even when the Saints went up 3 in OT, I was terrified of Herbert's arm just launching one behind the safeties. Then it never came to pass. And speaking of arms, it's an eternal thing that people can't get away from this year, right? But in my opinion, I don't think Brees' arm is any different really than it was last year. I keep coming back to the big difference being no Mike Thomas, because he brings you that flow. He makes everything better. Expound upon what you think about Mike Thomas's return to the Saints offense and if it helps them get that lack of rhythm corrected.
I do think it's going to be, everything for them. That's that first read. It's the ball coming out quick. And you see kind of the slump buster for Brees when things are going bad. They go to hurry up a little bit, and it simplifies the reads. The defense kind of has its tells, and he can pick them apart a little bit. But I kind of feel like Brees is that, hurry up offense for him. Mike Thomas for Brees, you put him in there, and that first read's there, and he feels comfortable throwing it. But, working off it, you see Emmanuel Sanders now, and it's multiple games in a row, and he's kind of emerging as a go-to guy that Brees trusts. And, again, nothing's working for him. And the second half, they start calling more plays for him, and he opens up and ends up with, close to 100 yards in the second half. And having another guy you can lean on and trust isn't really something they've had since getting rid of Willie Snead, or, until Willie Snead put himself in the doghouse is probably the right way to put that. But, yeah, once they get him and they put him with Thomas and the way Alvin Kamara is playing, I think they're going to have a really good offense in that precision-based passing. And, we're seeing Brees go down the field a little bit more each week. This was more 10 yards and out than 10 yards and in, which I think is a positive development. But, yeah, I mean, Mike's the best player in the NFL non-quarterback. He's the defending offensive player of the year. Not having him is a huge deal. And they have found a way through it. And, I do think that putting him in, I think he is the rhythm of the offense and everything flows off of him. And once he's back, that's going to be probably restored, to a large degree at least.
And so what's wild about all that, Nick, because I'm in complete agreement, like I'm in lockstep with you there, is the cojones that it then takes to be Sean Payton and suspend him for a game when it's not necessarily for injury. Now, you still got to love that he's going to get another week to kind of get fresh, but what happened in that fight to warrant such a – I mean, look, it's Peyton's job on line, the momentum of the season. Like the difference between 2-3 going into the bye and 3-2 is massive, especially when you look at the South. What happened in that fight to make him willing to make that decision?
See, I wouldn't even really classify it so much as a fight. I think the way it started, it made the decision very easy, and there really wasn't much to think about. Those two guys were matched up on each other in a red zone drill. Mike wasn't happy with the way he was being covered. He thought it was, there was something that should have been called, didn't get called. And, his frustration was visible to everybody at the practice. And, it's 1, 2, maybe 3 plays later, he comes across and he throws a punch at Chauncey when Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's not looking. And, that's different than just a natural
like mid-route, like mid-play?
I think it might have been after the play.
Okay.
He came over, he threw a punch, he's not looking. Chauncey had a helmet on when the punch came. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of those situations where they've fought before, and I think they fight frequently. There was one that boiled over pretty significantly last year before the Seattle game. But the difference is that's kind of within the flow of practice, and two guys jawing, pushing each other. Stuff happens in a natural flow of a game. But this was more of a you can't throw a punch at a teammate when he's not looking, he's not ready for it. And I think the way it's whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, I think the way it started, that there really wasn't much of a choice. They sent Mike home. They came back the next day, let the team know he wasn't going to play. But yeah, I mean, that's a tough decision. That's your best player. I think you take him out. And again, it's at the end of the week, and a lot of what you're doing is built around him playing. Like he was, as far as I know, he was definitely playing in that game. They took him out. You got to revamp a little bit, and that's not an easy thing to do. But at the same time, you can't let. There's just lines, and sometimes when a guy crosses it, there's just no going back. You got to go through with it and let everybody know that's not going to be the way things are done. And I think Mike probably knows that what he did was well beyond the line. And if Sean hadn't suspended him, I think it becomes a bigger deal, and then you have a distraction to deal with, and everybody's looking around like what's going on? Why is this allowed to carry out? But Peyton had to make a quick decision. Sit him down, regardless of who he is, and I think that was an important thing to do.
It's impressive, and now you're looking at worked out, right? You got through it, lesson learned. Everybody moves forward from here. The standard is set. Nick, we're talking to Nick Underhill. NewOrleans.Football is a site. Trust me when I say it is worth the sign up, especially if you love the Saints. Like the coverage is second to none. What about this defensive line? Marcus Davenport back. I thought he was impactful even without a sack. Really, the D-line as a whole, though, looked a lot like the D-line that we maybe expected to be. What was your breakdown of that position group?
Well, I haven't gotten the chance to look back at it yet because the game ended, but sleep woke up and talking to you guys as soon as I opened my eyes. But, watching it live, it felt like he was moving the pocket a little bit. I saw some really strong rushes from him. I don't know if he had the numbers, but I think you did see the impact of him being out there. And one of the things I noticed right away last night is that their 4-man rush, tracking it live, this number might change once I look back at it, but it looked like they had 7 pressures out of their 4-man rush last night, which is something that hasn't been happening this year. A lot of their pressure has been manufactured or, coming off of Trey Hendrickson's side of the line, who, again, had another really good game, and he's taking advantage when he gets those advantageous looks over there. So, I thought I thought Davenport was active. Trey was active. You saw Cam Jordan back there again. Sheldon Rankins, I thought, probably had his best game. So, I mean, just getting that group going a little bit, I think is huge, because they've kind of been, one of the position groups that have been missing. And you saw why they wanted to get Jadeveon Clowney early in the season due to that lack of production.
No, I'm sorry. Nick?
Did you lose?
I think we may have lost Nick Underhill. Let's see if we can't link back up with him here in and finish out this interview. I had one on Marshawn Lattimore. I wanted to ask him before he got out of here.
Yeah, I agree.
Remember NewOrleans.Football. You can find him at Nick_Underhill is where you can follow Nick Underhill, and you can catch him every Tuesday morning right here on Off the Bench, speaking about New Orleans Saints football, brought to you by former LSU Tiger and current attorney Chris Perrette as he joins us every Tuesday here on Off the Bench. What do you think, Musso?
Is that it?
Yeah? All right, Musso's giving me a head nod here. All right, real quick, Nick, one more before we get you out of here. We always appreciate your time on Tuesday mornings. Marshawn Lattimore made the key stop in overtime to preserve the victory, but he was inconsistent throughout the night. What do you make of the cornerback's play?
Yeah, he's got to be definitely more consistent. You said it. It's just not there yet. He's not where he needs to be. It kind of feels like when he isn't playing Mike Evans, like the same level of play just isn't there. And those coverage busts are a huge deal. I don't know if on that long one, if it was actually him or the backside cornerback. It's the cover 3 when Marcus Williams comes down. The backside guy usually fills. That's how they played it before. They got an interception on that same coverage against Green Bay in 2017 rather. So, it didn't play the way it looked. You saw Patrick Robinson cut in and then go deep late. But, I mean, just overall, he gave up the touchdown right after it. When Keenan Allen went out, I think you kind of saw him step back a little bit. And that's kind of the story with him is that if it's not that high-end guy, it's this inconsistent play. But then when it became crunch time, you saw him, come through with the good coverage and the tackle. So it just needs to be start to finish regardless of who he's playing. He needs to be at that level. And, I think during this bye week, the number one thing across the board is getting the secondary just focused and playing well. It's not just him. Patrick Robinson's watching an out route by Hunter Henry instead of covering Mike Williams on a play and they're going down the field. Every week this year, they aren't looking at the right place when there's a bootleg. It's just little fundamental things and being focused on what you should be focused on. And it seems like that should be able to get fixed, but it hasn't yet. But that needs to be the number one focus of the bye week.
I got 45 seconds. How good is Justin Herbert?
He's pretty good. He's impressive. The aggressiveness is probably the main thing that stands out. That throw and catch really to keep it going over Lattimore to set up the missed field goal was crazy. He's got a huge arm. I'm excited to see how he develops. I mean, I think there's a lot of these young guys that are kind of from that mold that can extend plays and throw it down the field, and I really think that's kind of the future of the NFL.
Nick Underhill is the author of the best site where you can find New Orleans Saints coverage. It's NewOrleans.Football. You got to get over and get your subscription today. Remember, with that subscription, you can check out the podcast as well, wherever you get podcasts from. I check out the NewOrleans.Football podcast on Spotify, but wherever you get your podcast, you can get NewOrleans.Football. Thank you, Nick. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.
Yep.
Thanks, Nick.
Law offices of Chris Perrette, the former LSU Tiger and current attorney Chris Perrette. Sorry about that, JP. We'll close that hour 2 next.